When I released my analysis of Silent Hill 2 Remake's story back in late October, I did it just before a big mystery from the game had been solved. I refer to the mystery of the photographs scattered throughout the town. Obviously, one could deduce that these photos depict events from James's past, both when he traveled to Silent Hill and his life outside of it. But whether there was any deeper meaning to these photos wasn't clear. Thankfully, on November 3rd, a Reddit user named Dale Robinson cracked a code that revealed a chilling message. To uncover that message, one needed to count the number of objects or things depicted in one of the photos. The example that Dale gives is the number of open windows in this photo. Then you take that number and match it with the appropriate letter depicted on the photo's descriptive text. So for this photo, that letter would be Y, the sixth letter. Then you do that for each of the 26 photos you find. If you line those individual letters up, they spell out a message that is as chilling as it is controversial. That message is, "You've been here for 2 decades." On the surface, the secret message appears to confirm something that has been theorized since the original Silent Hill 2 came out in 2001, that James is stuck in a karmic time loop that he cannot escape, akin to the Buddhist concept of samsara. This is a theory that the remake appears to lean into heavily, but with the multiplied number of corpses that look like James and messages that appear to be left behind by James from previous loops. If you want to see more evidence for that, you can refer to the aforementioned video I released in October, which I will link in the description box. Now, despite this secret message and all the compiled evidence in favor of the time loop theory, I, believe it or not, hesitate to say that this is what is actually happening, that the time loop theory is canon. I say this for 4 reasons. First, the director of Silent Hill 2 Remake, Matthias Lennart, has made statements regarding the time loop theory that purposefully sow doubt. Second, the secret message could be reasonably interpreted as a fourth wall breaking message to the player, as Reddit user Odesia suggests. Third, even though I would be okay with the theory being true, there are many fans that really dislike this theory, and a lot of them have many reasonable arguments to back up their distaste. For instance, some feel that if the theory were canon, it would either cheapen the introspective journey James is on, or delegitimize other equally effective interpretations of what James is experiencing. Here's one solid argument I want to highlight from Robbie O. Coelho, who dislikes the time loop theory. He suggests that the corpses James sees aren't from previous loops, but are a projection of James's death impulse, what Sigmund Freud referred to as Thanatos. Saying that Silent Hill has the power to give physical form to the contents of the mind, not only would Robbie's interpretation make sense, it would be perfectly in line with what we see James do in 2 of the game's endings, namely the In Water ending and the newly added Stillness ending. Now, the 4th reason is something that I will have to spend the rest of the video elaborating on, but to give a short, rough summary, the fact of the matter is that the mind can play tricks on us, and the actual mechanics behind the town of Silent Hill bear this out. Before I get into that, I will kindly ask that if you like this video, please give it a like. That helps me out a lot. And if you want to support the kind of in-depth gaming analysis that I do here, please consider supporting me on Patreon or joining my YouTube members section. I will leave links to both in the description box below. Now, let's begin. To begin elaborating on my 4th reason why I think it's reasonable to disbelieve the time loop theory, it would serve us well to do a very quick recap on the things we know for certain about the town of Silent Hill. First, as I briefly alluded to a moment ago, the world of the Silent Hill games operates on the notion that everything that is mind is matter, and everything that is matter is mind. In other words, anything that our mind conjures up has a degree of physical reality to it, as is proven by, for example, the monsters in Silent Hill 2 being symbolic representations of parts of James's mind. This is also a view that is inspired by the Eastern and esoteric religious traditions that the original Silent Hill creators were inspired by, namely Buddhism and Hermeticism, as well as by the theories of the Swiss psychoanalyst Carl Jung. Second, I believe it is reasonable to deduce from the previously established facts, as I have in past videos, that the structure of the material world around us parallels that of the mind. By that, I mean that it has a conscious side and an unconscious side. Our everyday reality is consciousness, what the Taoists would refer to as the world of order. Alongside that is a world of unreality, of unconsciousness and chaos, the place where our dreams and nightmares have that physical reality. Silent Hill is the literal bridge point between those two worlds. Now, to begin linking things back to the time loop theory, I need to talk about the structure of the unconscious world of unreality. Things are about to get a bit complicated, so if you have been listening passively, I would recommend increasing your attention span just a little bit. So, as the aforementioned Carl Jung theorized, there are two sides of the world of the unconscious. There's a personal side and a collective side. The personal side contains the unconscious contents relevant to you as an individual, your dreams, memories, and most importantly, your inner potential. The collective unconscious, however, is a more complicated, abstract idea. The clearest way I can explain it for the purposes of this video is that the collective unconscious is kind of like a psychic primordial soup. It is the sum of all of humanity's mental contents, our collective instincts, thoughts, dreams, and fantasies. We, as individuals, all emerged from the collective unconscious just as our genetic ancestors emerged from the primordial soup, and in turn, our personal unconscious minds were born. But that link to the collective unconscious was never broken. To get a visual example of this, we need to look no further than Silent Hill 2. When crossing the boundary into the world of unreality, James experiences the products of his personal unconscious via the monsters, but he can also see the products of other people's minds by crossing the imperceivable boundary between the personal unconscious into the collective unconscious, like with Angela's abstract daddy. The same can be said when Harry in Silent Hill 1 sees the monsters in that game, which are all products of the character Alessa's mind. To finally loop things back around, no pun intended, I ask one question. If Silent Hill connects us to the world of the unconscious, and the unconscious has a physical reality to it, then what is the physical structure of the collective unconscious? The short answer is that it is a multiverse. If mind is matter and matter is mind, then the multiverse is the collective unconscious and vice versa. Now, there are two very important qualities to the multiverse that you need to understand in order to link things back to the time loop theory. First is that the multiverse/collective unconscious is not bound by time and space. To use a visual example from Silent Hill 1, Harry can experience Alessa's memories as if they were happening in the present. In the world of unreality, the worlds of the past and the present can collide. Second, the multiverse in the Silent Hill games appears to run parallel to a popularly held belief when it comes to real-life multiverse theory. That belief is that when somebody has to make a decision, say whether or not to pick up a piece of bread, a universe will be born where somebody picks up the bread, as well as a universe where somebody doesn't pick up the bread. That decision is the nodal point. This is partially why, I believe, the creature designer for Silent Hill, Masahiro Ito, has said that all the endings in Silent Hill are canon, because in the multiverse, they are. To summarize, in the chaos of the multiverse, which is not bound by space and time, past and present can sometimes exist alongside each other, and sometimes they can merge. With this in mind, I turn your attention back to the issue of James seeing multiple versions of his corpse throughout town. Are the corpses that James sees him? To use psychoanalytic terms, is there just one ego, and the bodies are all a product of that single ego going through a loop? Or are these corpses of James from multiple realities that he has no relation to. Ergo, multiple egos. If you're confused by that, allow me to simplify things by quoting the villain from the Silent Hills PT demo. Are you sure the only you is you? So maybe James is not stuck in a loop. Maybe what he is experiencing is the convergence of multiple worlds, where other versions of James tried to come to terms with what they did to Mary and failed. Now, none of what I said renders the time loop theory invalid. What it does is make it equally plausible alongside my interpretation, as well as alongside the Thanatos interpretation and many others. Of course, the one big problem with the whole concept of the multiverse, whenever it's used in fiction, is it gives writers a cop-out, where they don't have to commit to one interpretation or the other. But in the world of Silent Hill, I think it works because so much of what makes the game so popular and memorable are the varying interpretations people place onto it, and the multiverse enables and validates all of those interpretations. Most importantly though, one should not overlook the horrific implications if my theory is right. If James is not stuck in a time loop, but is rather experiencing a variety of equally plausible realities at once, that would cause his sense of ego, his sense of self, to deteriorate. Let me put it this way. What if the first time we see James go into the town, that is actually his first time going there, but he still sees the corpses that look like him and the messages from his past selves, quote unquote. That would be the multiverse playing tricks with his mind. But what if these illusions, brought on by the merging of realities, convinced James that it wasn't his first time there, even though it actually was? Add on the Thanatos interpretation, amongst others that I'm sure people have, and that would be enough to finish off James's already deteriorating psyche, leaving him to wander the world of the unconscious, with no hope of escape, forever unsure if the only him is him. I hope all of you enjoyed this shorter video. I will be back to doing longer analyses in January. Before you dip out, remember to hit the like button and leave a comment if you have any thoughts on the time loop theory. Until next time, I want to wish all of you a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, a spectacular Zarathostra of Dizo, I think I'm pronouncing that right, and of course a very happy new year. Stay yellow, my friends.